does and gets the live stream portion up and running. I'm getting the thumbs up now. We are back live up and running on the podcast side with audio. I'm going to dive into something really. Now I need to turn off the audio on my side because I'm getting a double. There we go. Mute. Go away. So it's something really cool to report on. Happened on Saturday. There's a group called Destination Geauga. And Tiff and I, my wife and I, ventured into it, not really knowing what to expect. And it was kind of a last minute, it was actually a very last minute decision. We were driving around coming back from the Mentor area, and we decided, you know what, this thing looks pretty darn cool. Let's just go and do it. Let's clear the schedule for the afternoon. I didn't know anything about it. I knew Destination Geauga exists, but not much about them. And here's what it looks like. There are 25 different companies all over Geauga County that opened up their doors as a destination, and they rolled out all kinds of goodies, treats and handouts and freebies and stuff just for the opportunity to promo their business. And it worked kind of like a passport. I have two of the sheets in my hot little hands right now. My wife and I raced around Geauga, of course, dutifully paying attention to all traffic laws at all times. But we did race around Geauga County, and we went to 10 of the 25 different companies. If we'd gotten started earlier, I think I would have liked to have hit more of them. But these are really cool companies and area businesses. There's some I've actually been near several times, but never had opportunity to step into. And one really interesting example is something called His Daughter in Middlefield. It's just right near that Harbor Freight. If you can picture if you've been in Middlefield and picture there's a McDonald's, or no, actually, I think it's a Burger King. I don't know, I'm not a fast food guy, but there's a Burger King and an oil change place and a Harbor Freight. And to the left is a really interesting business called His Daughter. And on it goes. You got Cyrana's, we stopped in for a little bit of free pasta. This was a great event all day. And I want to highlight, for me, one of many highlights of the day from this really cool event that Destination Geauga put on and organized is a conversation I ventured into during our discovery. I ended up in a conversation with a woman, and I was talking about Voice of Geauga and advertising opportunities. And right away she said, "Oh, we listen to that every morning. We listen to that on the radio. It's 101.5 FM." And I was like, "Great." I have a big smile on my face. I said, "Well, if you listen to the show, you may recognize my voice. I'm Jonathan. And Skip and I are on the show." And she said, "Oh, I'm going to have to tell my husband I got a chance to meet you. We listen every day. I can only listen until 7:15. I have to leave for work. But I want you to know that my husband has started going into commissioners' meetings because of Voice of Geauga. We listen to you in the mornings, and we are now paying attention to what's happening in the commissioner's office." So that I count as many, not just one, but many huge successes. This thing with Destination Geauga, I'll tell you, was just such a hoot. There's a map on the back with pinpointed locations, numbered, and then little descriptions. There's phone numbers, the address. I plan on going back to several, including His Daughter. My wife and I just got a kick out of that place. If you drive in there, if you're like me, every once in a while I go in and buy a tool or something from Harbor Freight, give yourself an extra half hour and just look to your left. They think there's, what is it, Sherwin-Williams, and then His Daughter. But there are a bunch on here. We could do a whole program on some of these. The Century Village is in there, Burton Log Cabin and Sugar Camp. We have John's Country Nursery, which was a great stop. Middlefield Historical Society, the Flag Store. Thank you to all that the Flag Store does on 87. Go visit the Flag Store because it's the 250th anniversary. Everyone needs to be putting up a flag right about now, and they did a great job on Saturday of welcoming people. And they had a little 250th handout. You name it, the Flag Store had it going on. So back to you, Skip.
So
now that
yeah,
we're up and
the
running?
the flag store I just visited actually. I just updated my American flag because the old one got kind of faded, so I have to take it by the police department now. So if you're disposing of old flags in Chesterland anyway, you can take them to the police department. You can also take them to the sheriff's department, and they will dispose of them properly. And there is a
Uh-huh.
proper way to dispose of a flag. You can do it at home. Um, yeah, technically, you're supposed to burn them, but you can always deposit them at the police department, sheriff's department. But I went into the flag store, bought a brand new American-made flag at the flag store. It's one of my favorite
Nicely done.
stores. My only issue with them is that their hours are limited, but I would love to have participated in Destination Geauga. I know the people that manage that effort, and they're really good people. They do really good things for Geauga County. They advertise various businesses. They have a booklet that they put out, Destination Geauga, and it's a shout out because I think they're actually listening to this radio program. And
Huh.
so I'll do a shout out to the Destination Geauga folks and commend you all for the good work you do to promote local Geauga County businesses. And there's
This was so much fun.
a lot of small, fantastic businesses. I mean, we got this huge big box store, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, built in Middlefield, and I love Hartville lumber and everything, but all the small mom and pop stores that we've got in Geauga County are absolutely phenomenal. On Sunday, I actually was playing in a pickleball tournament in Chesterland. There's so many things going on in Geauga County that are pretty cool. I didn't win. Pickleball is kind of a weird sport where you mix
Hmm.
up your partners, and so your outcome is dependent to a large extent on your partners. And
Huh.
so I love all the partners that I played with, some of which were, for some reason, having a bad um, time when they were playing with me for some reason. I'm not sure why that was. So I didn't win, but we had a really good time. And
That's the important part.
and it was hot. It got 80 degrees, of course, and so but we had a real good time, and we had some people win the pickleball tournament. It's going to be every month. Third, I think it's the third week of the month in Chesterland. If you want to come test your skills at pickleball, you can come into Chesterland at the new pickleball courts at Parkside Park. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, the Destination Geauga folks, actually, I think I have a book or a pamphlet that they produce laying on my desk over here. And sometimes I reference it when I'm looking for certain things to do and for, where to purchase stuff. And so there's a lot of Amish businesses. That's where they advertise. They don't advertise online or some of the more modern Amish have Facebook pages and web pages, but the less modern don't do that. They still advertise media wise, and so yeah, that we just had a comment from one of our listeners on Facebook who said the American Legion has a red, white, and blue box outside of the post for used flags. So if you have um, a worn flag that's had a lot of salutes and stuff at it, you can always drop it by the Burton American Legion location. They have a red, white, and blue box outside of their post for used flags.
Perfect.
That's always good
And
to know.
there's a comment in Rumble. There's a flag disposal box at the county administration building on Ravenwood as well. So there are plenty of spots. Please do not throw the American flag away. The American flag should never be abused in such a way. There is a proper method to dispose of American flags. And that please take as encouragement to fly as many as possible. There's a little side note that our listening audience may get a kick out of. Many people know that some years ago, my wife and I escaped Beechwood, Ohio to move out into Geauga County. And boy, I wish I'd done it sooner. Many more like minded people. But during the first run for office, during the first campaign for President Trump, we talked about whether or not to put Trump signs out. It looks like we're coming up on a break. I'm actually going to use that as a teaser. I'll tell you a little funny story. It's a quick one. On the other side of the story, on the other side of the break, about a Trump sign of all places, Beechwood. I'll tell the story when we come back on the other side of the break.
Mics are off, mics are off.
All right. So if you are still hearing us, it means that you are listening on the podcast side, and we apologize for a little bit of delay getting the audio up and running on the podcast. We are live on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. So don't forget to like and share. We want to continue to grow the audience. Our numbers are increasing. I'll tell you and this is kind of partly for Skip as well. The posting that I do for my podcast, Unwoke Academy, I spent quite a long period of time kind of hovering at moderate numbers. It started low, it grew a little bit, and I don't know exactly what it was, but it fairly recently, hit kind of a tipping point. And now my Substack is one of the ones that gets noticed and put out on the app on people's phones. And recently, my subscribing audience on Substack has been ballooning big time. It's hardly a day goes by. Just this morning, I think I've got 4 or 5 more people following. Just this morning, and it's only 7:15.
30 seconds.
That's the sort of thing that I'd like all of us to be pushing for Voice of Geauga. We work hard to get news and information out and to entertain. It works best with more people. We're asking for your help growing the audience. Click that like button.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. Before the break, I was telling a quick little story about Beechwood, flags, and a Trump sign. So where we lived in Beechwood, at the time I was contemplating putting out a Trump sign because we had a corner property in Beechwood, and I figured it would draw a lot of attention. And I think cooler heads prevailed. My wife in particular said, we're not really sure what to expect if we put out a Trump sign on the yard. Who knows? They might toilet paper our house, throw eggs, or who knows? The loony left they're a violent sort, and they view anything that offends them as grounds for violent action. So I did not put a Trump sign out. What I did do is found 13 U.S. flags and put them all over the property. I had a giant full-size U.S. flag and a tree and one on a post, and I had small ones on the edge of the yard. As you walked along, it was lit up red, white, and blue with American flags. Great opportunity to get over to that flag store and buy one or more American flags and get them out for the 250th. But here's the kicker. Here's the punchline to the whole thing. Years later, after we moved out into Geauga County, some friend happened by at the property that we'd sold and left in Beechwood, and the people who had moved in after us had put up a giant wood-framed, massive Trump sign on our property, on the property that we'd sold, that we decided not to put a Trump sign up. And I kind of did a fist pump because I was like, you know what? Beechwood needs more people to push back on their just extreme liberalism. It's the oh my gosh. But anyway, that was a side story. Back to Destination Geauga. Skip, I'm glad to know that you know more about it because frankly, I'd heard of them, but until Saturday, I had not experienced anything. We had such a blast on Saturday. When they do it next year, it'll be the 23rd annual. I encourage everybody to find that sheet and go and do it. In the meantime, let's try to help Destination Geauga bring more businesses on board. I'm told that in years prior there were some other geographical areas like Chesterland. I don't believe this year there were Chesterland businesses that they should be on there. These businesses, these local companies should be spotlighted and get some foot traffic. We need to do our best to drive business into local owned businesses. Right, Skip?
Absolutely. We've got some great businesses in Chester. We've got a new brewery that just opened up, of course, Guido's, which is
Yeah,
an institution in Chester, and the Chester Tavern, which has been around forever. We've got just a ton of places that you can go. We got the new bakery, which has phenomenal baked goods now. We have a new sausage and hot dog store over by Subway. We have a Subway. I mean, I could go on and on. We got the two breakfast places, which I always go back and forth, Rise and Dine and the Skillet. And
yeah.
so, great places. Well, I'll do a shout out to them and give them a little free advertising. A lot of good places. But I wanted to come back. I want to make a comment on flags. I've been going to a number of volleyball tournaments or games that my grandson has been playing in. And prior to each game, they stand up and say they sing this or play the Star Spangled Banner. And it's amazing to me how many people don't understand proper etiquette when it comes to the flag. We were taught that when went to school. We see people standing. I don't see any disrespect per se with the flag, other than when we're playing the Star Spangled Banner, people looking around, they're kind of just standing there with their hands on their side. You're supposed to put your hand over your heart or salute if you're military or ex-military like me, but people have lost the proper etiquette. So let me just do a shout out. And when the Star Spangled Banner is playing, you're supposed to show respect for this country and the flag. You put your hand over your heart, you look at the flag, and you treat that as a solemn moment because it is. We live in the greatest country on the face of the earth, and that's our opportunity to recognize that. Same thing when we're saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And by the way, I want to point out, and to the republic for which it stands, republic for which it stands, not democracy, as some Democrats would like to say. And Stu's online throwing some comments at us, which is
Oh
funny.
yeah,
Apparently,
your buddy.
apparently he likes Mexican food because he shot a taco at us, so we have a little taco icon there. And
Huh.
so, and commenting on the Epstein files, which there's absolutely nothing to the Epstein files, 7,000 or 7 million pages or whatever released, and Trump is barely mentioned in any of that. It's really uh, more Clinton and a whole bunch of other people. And that whole, you don't want to get me started on the Epstein situation because he was a very bad guy, but so many
Yeah.
people got around him and got wrapped up in it. I don't want to get off on that one. But it's so funny the view of some of the liberals on Trump. They just so hate Trump. They got to make stuff up and throw all this stuff out there. It's just so funny. The
So yeah,
ball,
the 10-year parade of accusations,
yeah,
and it's the moment one gets completely dispelled and disproven as fictional and hoax, the media and the left just move on to the next accusation. Just constant. It's like it's like the smear tactic on steroids. It's
the ballroom is something. By the way, I've gone to Washington to the White House. I've actually had an opportunity when Trump was elected the first time as a county commissioner. A bunch of us were invited to the White House, and so we went there. And the White House is a beautiful historic building and so forth, but there is no place to meet. A ballroom is necessary, whether it was Trump doing it or otherwise. And the amazing thing is that it's being paid for with private dollars. And so we'll have something that we can be proud of as a country when we invite dignitaries. I mean, I've been to other Capitol buildings around the world, and all of them have this ornate, place for dignitaries to come and gather and meet and so forth. The United States does not. We have to set a tent up on the front lawn. How embarrassing is that? So thank God Trump is doing this. Of course, the liberals have to stand in his way. They have to fight him because they have absolutely no decorum whatsoever, no common sense. It's just everything, they just turn everything into a hate moment rather than a logical, common sense kind of a thing. But I'll just shoot that out to Stu, who's
that's yeah, that's
bashing the ballroom. So I don't want to get hung up too much on that. So we were talking about Destination Geauga and Geauga County, which I think we live in kind of a special county. I'm a little concerned, and I'm going to do a teaser for an upcoming program. Um, if you look at what's going on in Middlefield, I'm a bit concerned. So Middlefield is a city, and the city council, mayor, and so forth. Um, as I'm watching what's going on in Middlefield, I'm very concerned because of the growth. We're kind of converting Middlefield as a city into a Mayfield Heights. So we've got huge industrial stuff going in, and we're doing that based on the back of the residents because we're giving huge tax incentives, and tax incentives. In this case, I think in many cases, we're doing some homework on this now. They're keeping the schools whole, but when you put a big business in the Hartville Lumber, which I love Hartville Lumber, but it consumed a lot of farmland, and it consumes a lot of resources. So there's fire department, police department, water, sewer. All of these things have to be paid for. And if the city gives away those services to get that business into town, then the residents have to pick up the tab on that rather than the business
Right.
who's making a ton of money. By the way, Hartville Lumber is one of those companies that makes a ton of money. They don't need a tax incentive. I mean, just them having access to our market would probably have been incentive enough. And so I'm very surprised that the city leaders would give away things to get a business in here, and we've got more coming. And so that's very concerning to me. We're kind of wrecking the rural culture by bringing in these big city kind of organizations into our communities. So I'm a little concerned about the future of Geauga County from that perspective. So we'll talk more about that in the future. We don't have to get too hung up on that in this
Yeah,
program.
there is a trade-off for sure. Skip, just pausing for a moment, you mentioned the American Legion, and I think it actually came up in reference to the Burton American Legion and their red, white, and blue box for disposal of old and faded U.S. American flags. Two things: there's several people have commented online. Make sure you're buying American, buy American-made American flags. But having mentioned the American Legion, we want to pause to recognize sponsors of the show. We've got the Chardon American Legion, the Newberry American Legion, and the Chardon and Middlefield VFW. That stands for Veterans of Foreign Wars. Those are spots that you can stop in and thank a veteran. Stop by any of those four places. That's the Chardon VFW, Middlefield VFW, the Chardon or Newberry American Legion, and Red Eft. We've got Red Eft. You can contact them at 440-850-4968. They are an arborist. They will work with you on the health of your trees and shrubs. If you need a tree trimmed or taken down, they can help you. And again, that's 440-850-4968. We appreciate the sponsors of this show. You gave me a good segue there. Thanks, Skip.
Yeah, and we're looking for more sponsors. So we're actually talking to another organization right now about coming on board. We need sponsors to keep this program on the air. And by the way, if you want to contribute and help, donate, whatever, you can go to our website, voiceofgeauga.com. And there are two buttons: one to do a pure donation, so you can give us, $1 million. That would help us. Or you can give us
fund a lot of shows.
You can give us $10 a month. So whichever you prefer, depending on how well heeled you are, you can. If you were an NPR contributor and now you're frustrated because you don't like what the message, you can contribute to us instead of NPR. And,
that's a great idea. Let's appeal to all the people who figured out the NPR is just a mouthpiece for the left. Now that people have figured out the agenda of NPR and USAID and all that stuff, just know that there are still outlets out here like us fighting for, advocating for the American way. Truth, justice, and the American way. That's Voice of Geauga. But it takes money to keep us up and running. Please do help us look for sponsors out there. It's a great advertising opportunity, absolutely spectacular advertising opportunity, and an opportunity to keep us on the air. We're going to come back with more on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
I would agree with you, Dare, if you buy American flags. It seems kind of sacrilegious to me. It's like buying a Santa Claus. My wife has a Santa Claus collection, and every year, up until recently, because she's got so many Santa Clauses, I kind of stopped buying Santa Clauses. But one of my criteria when I bought a Santa Claus was it had to be American made. And it was really hard to find a Santa Claus made in America. Now, there are two
Yeah.
companies that make them, and they have a collection. So every year I could buy something different. So she's got a big collection of certain kinds of Santas. And the only other Santas were gifts from our kids who lived in Germany, who lived in various parts of the world. So they had a unique meaning. But all of the Santas my wife has collected are made in America. And so, and that's
Good.
really hard to find an American made Santa, and it's getting easier now to find American made flags. You can get them at Costco, actually. I don't know whether they're American made, like, who was the company that advertises from beginning to end, American
Oh,
flags, but some of them
yeah, I
are.
think I've seen their videos pop up in my YouTube feed.
Some of them are American assembled, so they take materials that might be manufactured elsewhere and then make that material into a flag. But the flag store has them, and I'm not sure if the flag store has any leftist flags or not. What is that? The Marxist fist up in the air symbol or something?
Oh,
And
yeah,
so, I,
apparently can attach that to anything, any kind of perceived disadvantaged group. Uh, it's like, it started in, whatever, 100 years ago with the Bolshevik Revolution, wherever it started, that insignia of the fist in the air, but now everybody gets it. The LGBTQ plus, and virtually everybody can put themselves in the oppressed category. Uh, so it's applied to, I mean, how many flags are out there now with the that insignia of the raised fist? It's exhausting. It's just mentally fatiguing. And meanwhile, the one flag that actually represents equality for all, people want to burn and step on, and um, yeah, it's just, the left have been attacking the U.S. flag. It's
well,
mind numbing.
now the new flag for the left right now is the Palestinian flag. Support Palestine.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
So
as far as like world causes, it changes every couple of weeks. It was, before that it was like, yeah, Palestine. And then, I mean, it's been 50 different flags over the past 4 years, just to agitate people and get them an excuse to go out there and burn and loot and attack police and defund police and everything. It's just exhausting. Hey, when we come back, I want to bring up this League of Women Vipers. Oh, oops, I mean League of Women Voters thing.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
What do you think about that? I'll
yeah,
mention it.
yeah, sure. Yeah, it's good.
Just mind-boggling,
It is,
wild
and
stuff.
to Stu out there because he's talking about gas prices and everything going up, cheaper grocery prices. I haven't really seen grocery prices really increasing. The eggs are still pretty stable. Milk's pretty
Yep,
stable. Gas prices
yep.
have gone up, but as soon as we get this nonsense
10
with Iran
seconds.
over
10
with,
seconds.
that'll be going down.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. I want to bring to everybody's attention something that hit my radar and apparently Skip's roughly this morning or yesterday evening. We have been talking about the League of Women Voters and whether or not they are actually dependable and reliable, and if they are objective. There are lots of questions around that. For me, I've drawn my conclusion. I looked very closely at them, and I've concluded for myself that I have lost faith. I've lost confidence in them. Like other things that present themselves as truthful and unbiased and neutral, etc. Like NPR is another prime example. There was a period of time when I was illusioned that I thought that NPR was actually presenting us Americans with a good perspective on the news. Well, locally, there may still be some people that think that the League of Women Voters is presenting objective information. They've expanded recently, apparently, according to this email that Skip, I, and whoever else has received. There is something they're forming called the Observer Corps. And the intention, apparently, is to have observers throughout the community who are going to go out and watch events like school board meetings, etc., and report back. Well, the very people who have been very selective about what they will platform, who they will platform, what questions are permitted to be asked, which questions get to be blocked. That same organization is presenting themselves now as an outlet for unbiased coverage of local events. It's interesting timing because Voice of Geauga has been out there uh, working on exactly that. But interestingly, and I'm hoping this feeds into some conversation. I know what Skip's response to this. Interestingly, in my overstuffed email inbox, 2 emails later, I've got an email from the Lindell Defense Fund that says that it goes into Tulsi Gabbard and how she is shining a light on something the American people have suspected for a long time, that powerful agencies and officials inside our own government avoided their responsibility to protect transparency and tell the truth. She has publicly released documents and accused intelligence officials of publishing political narratives while ignoring proper procedures and withholding critical information from the American people. So, if there are supposed quasi news organizations that are doing the same thing, that if they are aiding a narrative that harms the American people, and if they're avoiding truth, if they're avoiding the news that matters to people, like county spending, for example, those are not trustworthy organizations. I have yet to see what comes out of this thing from League of Women Voters, but my immediate reaction is suspicion because they have already damaged, significantly harmed their trust in the community from my perspective. What do you think, Skip?
Yeah, I experience because I'm on a couple of boards and go to a lot of meetings, and I see the observers there, and I have to give them kudos for showing up. I mean, we don't have the manpower to go out and go to all these township meetings, and I sit on the Metropolitan Housing Authority. I'll be going to a meeting right after this show today, and there'll be an observer from the League of Women Voters there documenting the meeting. And for
Oh,
the
so this isn't new.
No, this has been going on for a long time. What is
Uh,
new in the past, what they've done is they've documented the outcomes of those meetings and then they post that on their website. And that's a teaser or a draw for people to go to their website to get the propaganda that they promote on their website, their beliefs and stuff. But the observers actually are somewhat fair. They just document what they are hearing. There is a spin on it, and so you have to use some common sense and some critical thinking to some degree. But my experience with them is actually they're not too bad. The observers, they try to be to represent the content of the meeting somewhat fairly. But
okay.
that now what's new is they're sending that out in a newsletter, and it's funny because that newsletter didn't start coming out until the Voice of Jaga came out, and we
Oh,
started criticizing the League of Women Voters, and now all of a sudden there's a newsletter coming out into people's mailboxes with the
that's what's new.
with the content of all the meetings that they're going to. Now, I'm kind of surprised and shocked that they haven't done this before because they were collecting all this information and then just posting it on the website, thinking people would go to their website, and probably very few people went to their website. But now they'll start getting traction because they're going to start sending out these emails, and it has content in it, not complete, it's not comprehensive. I mean, it is skewed from the perspective that they pick and choose what they want to communicate, and so. If they want to target somebody, they can put the spotlight on an individual and just focus on what that person was talking about in a particular meeting, which is
Hmm.
interesting. But yeah, that's the new part. And like you said, the League of Women Voters try to represent themselves as nonpartisan. Heartily, if you go to their website, you can see a very hard left leaning set of opinions and positions that they take. but they want to represent themselves, and this is typical of Marxists. That's what Marxists do. They represent themselves as the group of the people. They're for the people, the working class, and then they set policies that are completely harmful to the working class, like
Right.
the welfare system. The welfare system was created by the Democrats back in the '60s, and I was around before the welfare systems came out, so I know what was happening before, and I saw what happened after. And with many of these programs, you think to yourself, well, maybe this is a good idea. Let's see how it turns out. But something that's really destructive is never undone. And so that's the
Correct.
challenge that I have. The welfare system was completely destructive to the low income poverty community. A lot of the black community totally destroyed the family structure. And
That was targeting.
I've seen that before where there's incentives for women to have babies and not to be married. And so women that have a lot of babies because their baby daddies go around collecting checks from them, and it just totally destroys the values of family, which was very strong in the black community at one time. And so it destroyed, and now you've got a slave class, these folks that are dependent on the welfare system is really kind of a shame. And so I've seen the impact of that over the years, and I'm very disgusted by that. Bill Clinton, interestingly, was forced into making some changes back during his second term because the Republicans took over. And so they kind of made some corrections in the welfare system, which actually helped. But now we're kind of back around to, there's big problems with that whole system. And so it destroys accountability and incentives for people to get out of the situation they're in and all that. So it's really a destructive, and that was a Democrat program. Same thing with Medicare or Medicaid.
It is.
I was
It's the
telling,
same model applied over and over and over again. And
oh,
just to add just a little bit of commentary to that, it actually started as something called AFDC, or Aid to Families with Dependent Children. I've mentioned this before on the show, but it's worth mentioning again because once you see the pattern and what it leads to, you can't unsee it. So primarily black communities were targeted, and there were door knockers that went around door to door, and they started asking families, did you know that if you are a single parent, you qualify for these government dollars? And there were families that started, it shifted the demographic in that direction. It started primarily by the targeting of Black America. But let's add a really key fundamental thing to know. For anybody that is inclined to point at anything bad that's happening in society and say, well, that's other people, it's not me, it will become you. I'm telling you, it will become you. In the immortal words of a conservative black friend of mine, Black America is a petri dish for communist bad ideas. It's happened over and over and over again. And so that same thing, eventually, and not too long later, it was so destructive. It was like the atom bomb of destruction of Black America, creating single parent households and destroying Black families. And Skip's right. There was a long period of time in the 50s and 60s where Black marriage rates and were higher and Black divorce rates were lower than virtually any other demographic in America. And the successes were great. I personally love the Larry Elder documentary, Uncle Tom. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch that. The first one, Uncle Tom, is spectacular. And it highlights these things. But the point I'm making here is that those things will get to you. They will get to you. So when we're looking now at things like the rising anti-Semitism in education and in textbooks and publishing around education, there are people who are not Jewish. They're saying, "Well, okay, I'm Christian, so as long as they're just going for the Jews, oh my, well, okay, no, we cannot, as a society, think in those terms. Get back to the American flag. If you pledge allegiance to the American flag, it is our duty and our honor to protect and fight for Black America and fight for Jews and Christians and everybody else. That's what makes America. That's what makes us what we are and solidifies. So stop allowing the left, please stop allowing the left to create identity politics. And it creates that avenue for people to dissect and say, well, that's another group. And we did it with California for decades. We're like, well, that's just California. But look at California policies now invading Ohio and some of them invading Geauga County. This is, we're coming up on a break. I'm going to take this opportunity to encourage you to go on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, like, share, and follow. We're going to come back with more on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
All right. So, Gardens of CH says government welfare system took the jobs of family and church. Absolutely. Yeah. The family and the church were the bedrock. But I'll tell you, we had a great program on Ohio Political News last night. We had, hold on a second here. I've actually got it on yesterday's notes. Jason Barnhart was our guest. I think what is he, 19, 20 years old? Solid, bedrock, conservative Ohio kid. He was talking about just this revival. It is an absolute full-fledged revival that's happening among young, particularly Americans and in the West, but all over the world. Chris Long from Ohio Christian Alliance was on as well as a guest. There is a resurgence of returning to the church that's happening right now. It's really exciting to see. It is a very exciting time. Let me bring this current. So yeah, absolutely. Gardens, you are correct. The government welfare system took the role of family
30
and
seconds.
church.
30 seconds.
There's a prospect now. If we can scale back government, if we could be successful at something like Doge and get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse, and scale back
10
these.
seconds. 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. That was an interesting comment that I picked up and we started discussing during the break from Gardens. That is that government welfare system took the job of family and church. It took away the jobs of family and church. It was the bedrock of America and a good, true society for the family to be core at all times. And an extension of the family, a component of it, was the church. Local churches were able to step in and help families in need. And that has worked very successfully for many, many generations, but got broken with the rollout of this idea that big government can help. Well, there are no known examples of big government actually helping. There's the story, there's rumors, and there's the promises, empty promises, decades and decades going back throughout history of big government saying, just give us all your money and we'll make life easy. And we're seeing it now. It's the siren song that is designed to appeal to the youth, to tell them, you don't actually have to work. I mean, you can smoke weed and get high in your basement and play video games, and we'll give you, what is the term they're using? An average daily allowance, or some goofy term that's ridiculous. Like the government, we have so much money that we'll just give you a monthly allowance. That is nonsensical and ridiculous. But there are signs, as I've mentioned during the break. Last night on Ohio Political News, we had Jason Barnhart as a guest. Jason is a young conservative Ohioan. I think he's in the Dayton area. I think he's around 19 or 20, rock solid conservative. And he and Chris Long from Ohio Christian Alliance were talking about this revival that's happening. There is a full-on church revival. There is a return to church that's happening. If we could put together, if we can successfully put together pushing more on Doge and reining in runaway rogue government overspending, waste, fraud, and abuse, scale back government, and get back to church, whatever that looks like for you and your family and community, we could see a beautiful revival of the basic core tenets of what it is to be an American. Right, Skip?
So, a point I want to make, and by the way, this is what Marxists have to have in order to wreck America. You have to destroy the family. You have to take the church out. This is the first thing that Mao did in China, is
Yep.
he banned religion and took families apart. That's what Stalin did. Took religion out of society. So you have to destroy private property, which is what the Western Reserve Land Conservancy does. You have to destroy the church, and you have to destroy family. Now, thank God we've got people coming back to the church. Young people are coming back to the church. Um, I'm a little concerned about the whole family thing because there's a lot of out of wedlock pregnancies going on, and the family is still not necessarily viewed as a necessary thing by the people on the left. But the people on the left right now have gone from my father's Democratic Party far left. And what I saw, and I just was talking to Jonathan about this before we got on the program, the Medicare Medicaid system is destroying, or government through Medicare, Medicaid, and other vehicles have destroyed healthcare. And so the Democrats say, oh, we got to fix healthcare. Well, they destroyed it. So you can't point to somebody who's destroyed it. Obamacare has destroyed healthcare. We've taken what were independent free businesses, hospitals that were operating effectively, and by the way, that competitive nature improved our healthcare outcomes and so forth. You had independent doctors' offices that had an affiliation with hospitals, and the cost of healthcare was very good at that point in time when I was growing up. People paid for their medical treatment out of their pockets because they were paying the doctor, and they only paid the hospital when they had to go in and use the hospital. Today, the hospitals are short on doctors. The doctors are an employee of the hospital. The hospitals get to determine where things go, and the insurance companies drive all of that. I went into the hospital the other day. I'm on Medicare and Medicaid, and the doctor said I should have a tetanus shot, except Medicare doesn't cover tetanus shots. And so I had to go to CVS to get a tetanus shot, and that's just so stupid. Now, I'm fortunate that I'm a veteran, so I also have veterans benefits because of a disability I connected to my veteran service. But the left wing has completely, and then they want to have universal health care, which everybody will have insurance, but they won't have health care. And that's proven through England, through Canada. And so I don't know what the heck you're thinking. Stu, maybe you can come on this program and explain to me how a Democrat, liberal, all this nonsense is going to lead to better outcomes. It never does. Socialism and Marxism destroys societies. You want to get back to a free enterprise capitalist society. I'm on the Metropolitan Housing Authority. A few weeks ago, I introduced the idea of dissolving the Metropolitan Housing Authority in Geauga County. And the League of Women Voters representative documented that. That's in the newsletter that was just sent out, that I had suggested that, looking at it. Because right now, HUD wants to convert us from our current model into a private ownership model. So they want us to own the assets anyway. And so I said, well, if we're going to own the assets, let's just become free enterprise, dissolve the Metropolitan Housing Authority. Now we don't have to follow the rules of HUD, which is an unconstitutional organization anyway. And we can now operate it more effectively and take care of the low income folks more effectively. Let's look at that. And so, of course, that took the wind out of everybody's sails because it's an idea that they had never thought about. And they're resistant to it because it's something new. It's a new idea. And they said, oh my God, can we do that? And the attorney in the room said, yeah, you can do that. But you have to go through a process, and it's a bit of a challenge, and you're going to be fighting the big government HUD that doesn't want you to do that.
Right.
But anyway,
they want control.
Just a quick message, because I know we'll be coming up on the end of the program. If you want to be a part of change, go find a public board to sit on. We all rail at the public, the government, and all that kind of stuff. You can't fix things from the outside. The reason I sit on these boards is the only way to fix things is from the inside. And so you can document, and you can scream and yell at the wind all day long. But until you get into the system and you can be a part, like Steve Olowich ran for office to be a part of change. Ross Spitaleri is part of change. Carolyn Brakey ran because she wanted to change. I'm not sure I like the change that she's bringing, but you can't change things from the outside. And so I would suggest find somebody to appoint you to a board so you can be a part of the positive change. Our West G School District is going through a positive change right now because we have really good board members, and hopefully they'll be supported by the public going forward. But our government is dependent on people. It's people. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. But the people have to be there and show up. And so anyway, that's
And
my
there,
that's my rant for the day, and thank you for allowing me to do that, Jonathan.
yeah, no, that was a great rant. There's another component of it because once those good people are in office, they have to receive fair coverage from local media. So we have school boards, and I see them all over the state and all over the country that flip back to education aware, that focus on education, and then they get negative press because the press cuts them up. Um, they actually, we have states that are actually improving education phenomenally that because they're returning to phonics for reading. The reading scores are going up, the literacy, all that stuff is going up, but they're still receiving negative press because they're not buying into the big money spend woke stuff. So it takes a community. It takes all of us working together to understand these things, be honest about the dynamic. Skip's absolutely right. Jump in, get involved at a local level, find something that you care about. One other piece as we depart today's show, take a look at the profits of insurance companies once Obamacare kicked in. Many of them folded, they just couldn't make it. The handful that survived got astronomically rich. So Obamacare drove massive wealth to very few people, and that is a petri dish. That's an example of what happens when the left and government join hands to dominate and take control of a marketplace. They destroyed healthcare and profited off of it and put it on the backs of we the people. This has been another episode of Voice of Geauga. We hope you'll return tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock a.m., and we will continue with more Voice of Geauga. Have a great Monday, everyone.